Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back. Hope you're all having a great time so far. Up next, we have a session from our friends at BIRAC on the various funding schemes they provide for the benefit of medtech innovators. I have Dr. Prachi with me, an investment manager at BIRAC. All medtech innovators and enthusiasts, this session is for you. Make best use of it, and please do ask questions if you have any. Over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Let me first share my screen so that we can begin with our presentation. I hope everyone is able to see my screen.
We can see the screen
Yeah,
right in front of
thank you. Yes. This is a special session. This is a special session which is being done to create awareness about our upcoming event, Global Bio India 2021. So this is the second event in the line. Last year we had Global Bio India in 2019, which was a physical event, but this time this is going to be through a digital platform, and this is being organized by DBT and BIRAC, and the event is going to be held between 1st to 3rd of March, and our partner organizations are CII, ABLE and Invest India. We all know BIRAC, it is a Government of India Enterprise Section 8 company which has been set up by DBT in the year 2012. It has been supporting startups, entrepreneurs, academicians for innovative development of the biotechnology products which are affordable and address the unmet needs of the nation. Also, you can say that BIRAC is a central agency which empowers and enables and accelerates biotech innovation ecosystem in India. It provides opportunities for entrepreneurship. It provides funding grants, investments. It provides incubations. It has been supporting bio incubators across the country. It's that's not all. In addition to the funding which it provides, it also provides mentorship, both technical and business mentorship to the entrepreneurs. And also it gives a lot of opportunities for its grantees to have recognition of their developed products and technologies. It gives a national as well as a global platform to showcase their technologies. BIRAC, as you know, it is a biotechnology industry research assistant council, and it covers all the aspects of biotechnology, all the sectors, including healthcare and wellness, waste management, agriculture, sanitation, industrial biotech, and clean energy. So BIRAC has different schemes which are customized for each level of product development chain, starting from individuals to SMEs. We have been supporting all throughout all the stakeholders of the biotechnology ecosystem throughout the entire chain of product development. I would be talking about these schemes in my later talk, where we can, get into the details of each and every scheme. The government of India has started up its program Startup India and especially Make in India. And through this program, till now, 2,063 crores of funds have been disbursed to the grantees, and more than 200 institutes and more than 1,500 startups have been supported. We have opened to 4 regional centers, and incubation space of close to 5 lakh and 79,000 square feet has been created through this initiative. So this is one slide. We all BIRAC, we all the people at BIRAC take really pride in showcasing this to each and every platform we get a chance to. It showcase all the products, some of the products, not all, some of the major products that have come out through BIRAC funding, and which has strengthened time and again the indigenous talent which we have in our country, which really need to be capped, and the potential of the talent which need to be realized. So these the products have been developed across all the sectors of biotech, starting from devices and diagnostics to agriculture, everything. Like I said, mentioned earlier, the first event in GBI chain was held in 2019, which was a physical event, and it was attended by more than 2,500 delegates across 625 Across 20 countries participated in the events. More than 625 companies had participated, and more than 800 biopartnering meetings were held during this event. In my consecutive slides, I would be discussing about the prospects and the need why this such an event is required in our country. So as you know, biotechnology sector is recognized as one of the key drivers for contributing to India's economy target of USD 5 trillion US dollars by 2024, and is poised to grow exponentially over the next decade. And policy initiatives of governments such as Make in India program, one cell is also set up in BIRAC in this aspect, and it has aimed to develop India as a world-class biotechnology innovations and biomanufacturing hub. DBT and BIRAC are organizing this event, Global Bio India 2021. They participated in 2019 as well, and this time it is going to be an even larger bio event as compared to the last time, and it is going to showcase opportunities in Indian biotechnology sector to the world. And it is we expect that more than 5,000 delegates would be attending this event from across the globe, connecting Indian biotechnology ecosystem with international ecosystem. So why destination India? We know India is number one supplier of DPT, BCG, and measles vaccine globally. My question is, why not India? So we see that India has a fair potential in this sector. It is the second highest number of US FDA approved manufacturing plants outside the US, and it is the third largest biotech destination in the Asia Pacific region. So yes, this is an ideal destination to showcase such an event at such a scale. India's bioeconomy has crossed $70 billion and is positioned 12th in the entire globe. It has been positioned third in Asia, and it is the second highest, like I mentioned earlier as well, it is the second highest number of US FDA approved manufacturing plants outside US. More than 600 core biotech companies are there in India, and India is the largest vaccine manufacturers with more than 52 biotech incubators and roughly around 3,000, more than 3,000 biotech startups, and it ranks 48th in the Global Innovation Index. So a little more in detail about this virtual event, Global Bio India 2021. So like I have been emphasizing, a lot of participation is expected to be seen in this particular event. It is going to be attended about by more than 5,000 delegates from more than 50 countries. We are going to have more than 200 exhibitors, and a plethora of meeting platforms have been organized. B2B meetings, B2G meetings, and G2G meetings would be there. A special platform for bio partnering would be available, where I would be getting into details of bio partnering in a while, but you would get a opportunity to do your networking through and build up partnerships, get in touch with other related companies and everything. So other events include CEO roundtables, startup pavilion, ministries and departments pavilion. Certain states are going to be a participant in this particular event as well through State Connect. So why you should exhibit in this particular event? You are going to get personal networking opportunity. You can get hold of the investors. You can meet them virtually, of course, this time. And you can have a global presence of your company or any enterprise you are representing, or if not at that level right now, you can definitely have make your products and technologies, whatever you are working on, you can make a global presence in that. You can showcase your products to international players. You can enhance your product portfolio. You will have an access to a lot of innovations. You'll get to know about a lot of innovations and the technologies, the people across the country, not just across the country, but all over the entire globe. Whatever they are working on, you will get an access to it. So you are going to get opportunities for marketing, and of course the funding opportunities are there. So, like I said, we are going to have a special platform for bio partnering. Here you can, I have elaborated the various steps it will require for you to access this particular event. First, you can create or your own profile or your organization profile, and you can mark your availability across the 5 days. We would be having this bio partnering session from 1st to 5th of March. So you can mark your availability. You can search different organizations who has taken access to this bio partnering event. You can identify the probable any companies or investors which you are interested in to communicate with, and you can accept and send the meeting request, and as per the time slot and the timing date, you can attend the meeting. So who should attend? Basically, this Global Bio India event is applicable to all who are the stakeholders in the biotech industry, including the large industries, SMEs, startups, entrepreneurs, innovators, enterprises who are looking for business partners and distributors in India, investors seeking opportunity to invest in biotechnology sector, international and domestic public officials, regulatory agencies, patenting offices, clinicians, bioengineers, institutes involved in translational research, technology transfer offices, experts, and mentors, international biotechnology industry associations. So we have a whole secretariat who is handling this Global Bio India secretariat, especially the Make in India cell at BIRAC. And we have a specific dedicated website, www.globalindiabioindia.com. It extensively charts out all the sessions that would be held during this event. The speaker's name, all the information is available on the website. You can, in case you have any queries or you want to seek any clarifications, you can always write an email at info@globalbioindia.com. And you can also keep in check the Twitter and Twitter handle of this event, Global Bio India. Thank you. That was about the Global Bio event. Do we have any questions regarding this event? Okay, if we don't have any questions, maybe I can start off with my other presentation where I would be detailing about various funding opportunities we have at BIRAC. Okay, so this presentation in particular is about funding opportunities at BIRAC. I won't go into the details of the BIRAC and its mandate because I've already covered it in my earlier presentation. I would straight away come to funding scenario in BIRAC. Whom do we support? We support individuals, startups, SMEs, biotech companies, research institutions, universities, NGOs, societies. And what do we support? To be very frank, we support everything starting from idea till pre-commercialization stage. So all the stages under the product development cycle are covered and supported by us. Idea, proof of concept, early to late stage validation, scale up, pre-commercialization. So this is somewhat a similar slide which I had shown earlier. It details out various schemes we have at BIRAC, which starts from ideation and goes up to late stage development and marketing. We have immersion programs, social innovation immersion program, along with Srishti as well. We are working where students and researchers young students and young researchers can be a part of this program, and they can study, they can identify certain problems in the particular area and work on the solutions. Then we have BIG scheme, where an individual or an entrepreneur, a young entrepreneur, can be a part of, can apply to BIRAC if they have an idea and they want to develop a POC. We have certain schemes. Space, like PACE, have two components, AIR and CRS. We will be covering this later on. For companies, for early stage validation, we have SBIRI and BIPP schemes. Then once the entire research, the product has been developed, and for further they need support for their marketing and manufacturing, we have PCU. In between, we have other equity-based schemes such as Seed Fund, Leap Fund, and ACE Fund for various stages of product development. So first to come, I'll elaborate a little about BIG scheme. The objective is to foster generation of ideas with commercialization potential, supports up to proof of concept stage, encourage researchers to take technology closer to market through a startup, and it stimulates the formation of an enterprise. So basically we have two calls for this scheme in a year. 1st January and 1st July, the calls are put up. Each innovator receives up to rupees 50 lakh for research projects which have a commercialization potential, and the support is given for up to 18 months. So this scheme is currently managed through 8 big partners who work with the grantees to provide mentoring, monitoring, and networking and other business development related activities. So eligibility of the applicant, both individual as well as the companies, LLPs can apply for this particular scheme. Individual entrepreneur with graduate degree in any discipline, research can apply. He can be a research scholar or a scientist. Applicant must be incubated in a recognized incubator. Any startup company LLP which has been registered under Indian Companies Act 2013 can apply. The incorporation date should not be earlier than 5 years from the date of closing of a particular BIG call. And the company must have its own in-house R&D facility that is functional and adequate to execute the project. And if it does not have its own R&D unit, then it should be incubated at an incubator. Then I want to specify on one very important aspects which forms the backbone of evaluation criteria under BIRAC, which is the TRL levels, technology readiness levels. So keeping NASA TRLs as a reference, BIRAC has come up with detailed definitions of levels in the TRL scale for various thematic areas under which proposals are invited. The detailed TRLs for each thematic area is available at BIRAC website. So before you choose to apply under any scheme of BIRAC, I would really advise you all to go through these TRL levels for your particular thematic area and choose your scheme wisely. Choose your readiness of your technology very wisely before applying. These TRL definitions will guide the innovators, evaluators, and investors to identify the stage of technology which is under development. And the definitions which are given at the BIRAC website also include some of the regulatory approvals and quality certifications which may be relevant for progression of TRLs and commercialization of the technology and products in India. To be very brief, these TRL levels go from TRL 1 to TRL 9. TRL 1 is considered as the ideation stage. TRL 6 is the technology demonstration or the early stage validation stage. TRL 7 is, we consider somewhere between, when the technology is pretty mature. TRL 9 is considered as the pre-commercialization stage. So I would be using these TRL levels in my further slides. So I thought that it's better to give a brief about this at this stage itself. Then after BIG, we have a scheme for companies as SMEs, which is the I4 scheme, intensifying the impact of industrial innovation, which has two components, SBIRI, which is the Small Business Innovation Research Initiative, and the BIPP, which is the Biotechnology Industry Partnership Program. So we announced 3 calls for this scheme in a year, 15th Feb to 31st March. As you can see, I have highlighted this in red because this particular call is currently active, and we are inviting applications under I4 right now. Then our second call comes on 15th June, and the third comes on the 15th October. So basically, the difference between SIBRI and BIPP is more based on the technology readiness of the technology readiness level of the proposal which we get. So SBIRI is mostly for the early stage validation, BIPP is for the late stage validation. So to apply under SBIRI, the end TRL for any technology or the product which you are proposing should be TRL 6 or below. If it goes beyond TRL 6, maybe if it's TRL 7 and above, then the proposal would be shifted to BIPP. There are certain funding differences as well there in SBIRI and BIPP. So for SIBRI, we give 100% grant from BIRAC up to rupees 50 lakhs, and beyond 50 lakhs matching contribution, the beyond 50, the amount is distributed equally between BIRAC and the applicant company. So let's say, suppose if the project is of 100 lakhs, then 50 lakhs straight away goes as 50 lakhs goes as a grant from BIRAC side, and for the remaining 50 lakhs, there would be equal contribution, 50-50 contribution from BIRAC and companies. So in the end, 75 lakhs would be contributed by BIRAC, and 25 has to be brought in by the uh, applicant companies. So this is just to make companies also fulfill their business, strengthen the business aspects. And then when it comes to BIPP, when we consider the technology to be pretty much mature to reach pre-commercialization stage, we expect the companies to bring in 50% of the project cost. Then eligibility, as I said earlier, so the proposals under I4 scheme, both SIBRI and BIPP, can be submitted solely by a company which has been incorporated under Companies Act, or limited liability partnership LLPs incorporated under LLP Act of 2008, or it can be a joint proposal with a company or with any university or an institute. The company should have minimum 51% share of the company should be held by Indian citizens. And for LLP, at least half of the person should be Indian citizens. And the applicant company should either have adequate in-house facility to address the project implementation, or it should be incubated with any of the recognized incubation facility across the country. To go into the details of SBRI, then we have SBRI, as you know, it was India's first biotech funding scheme, which has been launched by DBT in 2005 to promote public-private partnership. The scheme facilitates early stage research, which has been undertaken by industry, startups, LLPs, either alone or in collaboration with academia in the field of biotechnology. Like I have told earlier, that we have 3 calls in a year, and each call, so we alternate between a regular call and a challenge based call. Challenge based, during regular call, we invite proposals from all the sectors of biotechnology, be it devices and diagnostics, agriculture, industrial biotechnology, energy, environment, biosimilars, vaccines, drug and drug delivery. So we don't specify any area, though it is an open call. For challenge call, we focus on certain points, certain areas where we want to invite the proposals, which are identified based on the priority areas of the nation, the national programs, or any unmet need which we see need to be addressed. There is no ceiling with regard to the total cost of the project. I think I have detailed out the funding mechanism, and all these scheme guidelines are also available at our website, where you can go in details. So to talk about the impact of SBRI scheme, which we have seen so far since its inception. So far we have received more than 2,000 proposals under this scheme. We have sanctioned 306 proposals, and then and the total beneficiaries supported are 299. Academia has also been supported, which came in collaboration with different companies. And the funds committed by BIRAC is 276. And till now, we have filed 44 IPs and 56 products have been developed. Next one is our BIPP, Biotechnology Industry Partnership Program, which is more suited for more mature technologies. It was launched in 2009, and it promotes innovative research for development of transformational product processes technologies using the biotechnological approaches. The scheme serves as a launchpad for validating, scaling, and commercializing high-risk innovations. IP rights rest with industry, and the financial support is provided to large, medium, and small scale industries up to 50% of project cost as grant in aid. As in SPRI, collaborative projects involving an academic partner and the academic institution is funded over and above the 50% grant provided to the industry. We don't expect the academic collaborator to make any contribution towards the project. So we have 4 categories where we give our support under BIPP. First category is the areas where we see which has a major social relevance, but certain techniques have uncertain market driven demand. Then the second category comprises of high risk discovery innovation research with relevance for making India globally competitive. It is more for high R&D, where a lot of R&D is required. Any emerging technologies there which needs some assistance, those are basically covered under this. Then we have category 3. We have divided it into clinical trials and the health sector and the agriculture sector. So clinical trials in healthcare are considered under 3A, and 3B is for the agriculture field trials. Then we have 4th category to if anybody wants to develop a facility which is critical for enabling the innovation, we also give support for that. So we have received till now we have received around 1,300 proposals, and we have sanctioned around more than 200 proposals under this scheme. And you see academia has been very enthusiastically been a part of this program along with the companies. The funds committed under BIRAC is 535 crores, and we have filed 36 IPs and 56 products and technologies have been developed. So royalty is one particular aspect where which is applicable to all our funding schemes. We take royalty at 5% of annual net sales of the product which has been developed with BIRAC support is payable to BIRAC, but it is subject to once the commercialization of the product takes place. So till then, no royalty guidelines apply to it. So the liability becomes, so once the amount which has been dispersed by BIRAC has been recovered through royalty, then the royalty terms becomes terminated. Then we have a PACE scheme which focuses on the academia. We have 2 components under PACE. One is the academic innovation research, and the other is the contract research scheme. So here you can relate here with being a BIG for academic institutes. This scheme promotes development of proof of concept for a process product by academia with or without the involvement of industry. CRS is a more mature scheme where we expect once the POC has been developed by the academia and they want to scale it up or they want to get it validated by an industry partner, they can apply through CRS. So types of projects supported. Projects, the minimum criteria to apply under AIR is a well-established proof of principle. You cannot just start with an hypothesis. You should have a proof of principle established with you, which would lead to a prototype or a product technology of national relevance or commercial potential. So we do not support basic exploratory research projects which do not have any established proof of principle or which do not have any commercial potential. Duration is up to 24 months. So we have recently um, changed the guidelines for AIR proposals. Earlier, it was supported for 18 months, but now the duration has been increased to up to 24 months. The total cost of the project cannot exceed rupees 50 lakhs. And out of this, non-recurring, which is basically the part which constitutes the equipment, should not exceed 10%. IP rights may be with the academia alone or jointly shared between the academia and the industry as per the understanding between the two partners who are submitting the proposal. Who can apply? Academic institutions, public, private, university, NGO, or any research foundation which is actively involved in the research and have a well established support system for research uh, should be the primary applicant. They can apply individually or jointly with academia, another academia, or jointly with any industrial partner which they think is suitable to take the leads ahead. For the industrial partner, the eligibility criteria will be same as I have mentioned under IFO scheme for SIBRI and BIPT. Under CRS, so to apply under CRS, the minimum criteria which has been laid is that at least the POC should be well established by the academia. They should provide preliminary data that has been generated during this POC development. And now the technology should be ready either for a scale up or for validation. So this again has to be submitted in. So an industry partner is mandatory for CRS. It is optional under AR, but it is mandatory under CRS. And we don't have any capping under CRS either in the form in the duration. We don't have any capping for duration. We don't have any capping for the fund. And the grant is provided to both academic as well as the industrial partner. One interesting point to note here is for IPR that although the IP rights reside with the academia, the industry partner has the first right of refusal for commercial exploitation of the new IP. From this particular call onwards, we have included certain technical eligibility criteria as well for AIR, just to motivate the academicians who are involved in translational research to be more specific for and to be more focused towards finding an industrial partner. So I'm not going into the details of the technical eligibility criteria. We have included this in the RFP and the scheme guidelines which are there available on our website. So please go through all the scheme guidelines which are there before proceeding to submit your proposal. Then we have certain eligibility criteria introduced for CRS as well. So evidence of POC, which is the TRL3, which is the minimum TRL, which should have been achieved by the academia, they should have achieved TRL3, and validation ready data supporting the proposal is compulsory. Usually we see many applications that are being submitted either under AIR or CRS. They do not support, they do not have any preliminary data with them. So in that situation, we do not take that proposal further, and we do not recommend it for further evaluation, because preliminary data is a mandatory requirement for these proposals. And proposals that have received AIR funding should have the same industrial partner who collaborated for AIR project. And if you are changing any industrial partner, you should justify and give clarity on the IP governance, because we have certain IP rules for AIR projects and for the CRS. The CRS proposal should be accompanied by the commitment letter by the industrial partner to exercise the first right for monetizing the product and the technology. So till now, we have received more than 1,700 proposals under PACE. 117 projects have been sanctioned, and we have supported 130 companies, academic institutes, And 97 academic institutes were there, and they were accompanied by 33 companies. 7 IPs have been filed, and 7 products and technologies have been developed through this scheme. So this is the very particular call which I was emphasizing on earlier, which has been opened on 15th of March, and it will remain open till 31st of March for I4 and PACE. So all those who are interested in applying under this scheme, please do so. And and one important thing to note about this call is that this is a challenge based call, and we have advertised, we are inviting proposals for 2 areas. First is the import substitutes, and other is the plant and soil health management. All the proposal submission is done online. All the details are available at BIDAC website. All the forms, the format of the forms are also available, so that you can have an idea what all documents are to be uploaded and what all need to be included along with the preliminary data while submitting your proposal. So under import substitutes, we have certain headings: components of diagnostic kits, including reagents, probes, primers, and other components needed for diagnostics; development of novel technologies for production of monoclonal antibodies for therapeutic applications and diagnostics; new methods, technologies for vaccine delivery and cold chain distribution of vaccines; cost-effective production technologies for industrially relevant bio-based import substitutes; NGS-based workflows for high-volume screening, including mutation detection; technologies to enhance shelf life of packaged foods; field usable diagnostic kits for disease and algal toxins relevant to aquaculture; microfluidics based diagnostics relevant to veterinary sciences; cost-effective production technologies for APIs, intermediates, high-value products, polymers, surfactants, fine chemicals, dyes, pigments, flavors, and fragrances; and repurposing of drugs. So this particular aspect, import substitutes, is specifically has been included in our this challenge call. It covers all the areas of biotechnology, and it also, we need to strengthen our abilities for Atmanirbhar Bharat, like our honorable prime minister has been emphasizing on. So clearly we should have an attitude to develop indigenized technologies and products, be it any stage of development, be it in under SIBRI, be it be any research done by the academic level. We really need to think towards this aspect. The other part which has been advertised is the plant and soil health management. Under this, first we have soil health appraisal, where the proposals would be invited for the development of efficient and low cost sensors for estimation of moisture, macro and micronutrients, organic matter, for assessing and analyzing soil fertility at farmers' field to decide on soil amendments and suitability of crops for that particular site; use of geographic information systems, GPS and remote sensing techniques for capturing variability in physical properties and soil fertility in specific fields; application of big data analytical tools and techniques, IoT, etc., for soil health monitoring; then tools and techniques for estimation and diagnostic of both pathogenic as well as beneficial organism in the soil. Then the second part includes plant health assessment and monitoring, which involves development of sensors, simple tools for assessing nutritional status, deficiencies in plants for proper fertilizer application; rapid, specific, and low-cost diagnostic kits for on-site detection of various plant diseases caused by bacteria, fungi, viruses, nematodes, etc. Then we have use of remote sensing, AI drones, etc., for real-time monitoring and forecasting of crop-specific pest and disease; use in development of DNA probes, DNA chips, nanosensors, and other plant diagnostics methods for detection of disease in the field; development of tools and technologies for preventing post-harvest losses. So the types of projects that are supported under this call, the proposals should be related to the process and product innovation with significant impact on commercial potential. Developed process should be sustainable from an economic environmental point of view and should be scalable. And we, like I discussed earlier as well, we have certain TRL levels that need to be achieved under each screen. So we have fixed the eligibility for these schemes as per the NTRLs which need to be achieved by the applicant in their proposal through these projects. So for air, the NTRL, the project should end at TRL 3. That POC should be clearly established by the time you finish off your air proposal. And for SIBRI proposal, the project should end at early stage validation. TRL 6 should be achieved by the projects which are being proposed under SIBRI. And for BIPP and CRS, the end stage, the NTRL should be 7 and above. The product should be ready for demonstration, or it should be ready for pre-commercialization stage. What is not supported? So if you don't have any proof of principle for AR and SIBRI scheme, we are not going to take that project forward. And if for CRS and BIPP proof of concept is not established, then the proposals would be rejected. And it's just not the fact that the proof of principle and the proof of concept should be ready. The relevant data must accompany the project proposals. So without preliminary data and potential for product technology development, the proposals won't be considered. And this funding cannot be used to support PhD student research or any other academic research. It should not be treated as a research fellowship. It should not be used to, the manpower cost should not be taken to support any research fellow of the institute. And the proposals for this particular call, we are very specific with the challenge areas. We need the proposals which are highlighted in the RFP, which I have just spoken about. Only those proposals which fall under that scope would be further considered. We have a very streamlined evaluation and decision making process at BIRAC for these schemes I4 and PACE. So all the proposals are submitted online during the active call. So the call is going to end on 31st of March. So any company or the academic institute has to register on the BIRAC website. They can select the relevant call, fill up the online form and upload the desired documents which are listed in the process, and they can do the submission. Broad parameters which BIRAC has adopted to evaluate all the proposals that we get are based on the scientific merit, innovation level, commercial potential is definitely one of a major aspect, societal relevance, the approach and methodology provided by the applicant in the proposal should be very clear and very scientific, investigators' credentials, regulatory issues that may any regulatory approvals that may be required for the proposals, whether they are available with the company or whether they are going to apply for it. Are there any issues in getting the clearances done, whether the applicant has done any preliminary work or not, or the past performance of the company, if you have already completed a project or any project has been sanctioned by BIRAC, you so that is also the performance during that project is also taken into consideration. And yes, the time frame which has been proposed by the applicant, as per it should be as per the guidelines, and where we don't have any particular capping in the duration, the time frame should be more realistic and justified. We have the first evaluation of the proposals is done through area review panel. We have four well-established panel of experts for different areas. We have one for devices and diagnostics. Then we have another panel which looks after drug and drug delivery, biosimilar stem cells, regenerative medicines, vaccines, clinical trials, and other biotherapeutics. Then we have energy, environment, secondary agriculture, all which forms the part of industrial biotechnology. Then we have agriculture, aquaculture, and veterinary sciences as the fourth panel. So the whole process, although we have our ARP panels and the technical evaluation committee is there, which comprises of various experts of different fields, academicians and professionals are there in the panel. Other than that, we have our own in-house analysis system, our own in-house support is there, who helps in this evaluation process. We have both technical as well as financial due diligence is carried out. For technical evaluation, we have our technical team is there, well-established technical team is there at PIRAC, who prepare in-depth analysis reports for the proposal and presents it before the committee. We have our financial team who looks into the financial aspects, the financial standing of the company who has submitted the proposal. Then we have IP cell who examines each and every proposal to identify the potential hiccups which might be there in the path of research or commercialization. And other than that, we have our regulatory cell where we invite regulatory experts to be the part of the committee, and they look into the regulatory aspects of the proposals, what all regulatory clearances might be required to get this project executed. So final decision on we have our technical expert committee comprising of eminent scientists and academicians. So final decision on ARP evaluation is taken by the tech. Once any proposal is shortlisted by ARP, the presentation is to be made by the company, by the PI in front of the tech committee. Then once the tech committee during the presentation recommends the proposal for further screening, the site visit for this particular proposal at the company premises is conducted, and any review as and when whatever is required. Sometimes it may so happen that some clarifications need to be sought, so they all are presented before the tech committee. And tech obviously has a very crucial role of monitoring and mentoring the projects which are funded by BIRAC. So site visit is one very critical aspect of our due diligence process. It is conducted for both technical and financial aspects. For technical, a team of subject specific experts in the area along with BIRAC facilitators visit the company, or in the case of CRS, we have visits at both the academia as well as the company premises. And they examine the facility, the manpower, budget, timelines, and other the feasibility, the technical feasibility of the project, what all objectives should be there, and the activities to be performed. Everything is streamlined by the during the technical diligence. Then we have financial diligence, where an audit of the financial status of the company is undertaken by a CA appointed by BIRAC, and they look into the key aspects such as liquidity, profitability, debts, and assets of the company. So here I have streamlined somewhat the process, evaluation process I have been describing. So once a site visit report is submitted and the recommendations are considered by the tech committee, the proposal is then recommended for consideration of the Apex committee, which is the final review committee, who takes a final decision based on both the technical as well as the financial aspects, whether the project is to be recommended for sanctioning or not. So once the project becomes ongoing, it has been sanctioned, then also tech committee and the technical mentoring and the monitoring continues. A PMC committee comprising of two areas experts along with one BIRAC technical manager is made part of the technical team to evaluate the project and monitor its progress with 6 monthly reviews, both in the form of site visits as well as in the form of company presentations at the tech committee. Along with technical, intermittent financial due diligences also take place, where we see the disbursements which has been done by the BIRAC in the no-lien bank account? Is it being efficiently utilized for the project purposes? Whether the company is making its contribution uh, as it has been dictated under the GLA terms? So all these aspects, any technical mentoring which might be required, any technical challenges that might be faced by the company during the project are all taken care of by these committees. So funding by BIRAC is all milestone based. So we have different timeline projects with different timelines. Some are till some short projects are also there, which are by up to 12 months. Some go beyond 12 months. They may be 24 months, 18 months. So we divide a project into three critical milestones. In case of shorter projects, we have two technical milestones, which up to 12 months. So first tranche of 30% BIRAC contribution is released once we sign a grant inlaid agreement to with the company or the any fund recipient, the academia in case of PACE. So once a GLA is signed, we disburse 30% of the project cost. Then a project is so devised that we identify three critical technical milestones which the project should be reaching in a specific duration of time. So with each completion of the milestone, technical milestone, 20% of the project cost is released. And then once all the three technical milestones are completed, by the time we have already disbursed 90% of the project costs, and the remaining 10% of the project cost is disbursed once all the formalities of project completion, report submission, the financial document, all the formalities related to the project are completed. So this remaining 10% is usually in the form of a reimbursement, which is disbursed once all the formalities by the applicant, company or the academia has been completed. So these are few of the very important aspects which should be looked into by any applicant who wants to apply under BIRAC scheme. First is go through the RFP document very carefully, see whether your proposals falls under the scope which has been defined under the RFP document. Then go through the scheme document very carefully. You should adhere to the guidelines. If a guideline says that the duration should not exceed 24 months, do not exceed the timelines, do not exceed the budget cappings wherever they have been indicated. Then you should have a thorough selection of the research problem. You should do the market research, do the survey, see whether it is competitive enough, what all competition you might face, the existing competition, who are the market players, whether you are fulfilling any unmet need, are there any takers for the technology you want to work on, what is the commercial viability, whether you have the freedom to operate in that particular area. Awareness of regulatory aspects is definitely required. We have our inbuilt form for regulatory questionnaire is there in the form where you have to indicate any regulatory approvals that you may require for any work which you have indicated. You should have a very strong technical team because uh, each aspect can be looked into, but if a proposal is not technically strong, then definitely it is not going to go through the evaluation process. So you should have a very strong technical team. You should have a very strong scientific data generated under preliminary work. You should select your collaborator very wisely. They should uh, you know add on to the existing value which you are bringing. You should you should not just take them for namesake that the collaborator is required, but they should contribute towards this project. They should be completing some objectives for this particular project. Then we have fund they how much fund they are ready to contribute, then what is going to be the deadline for the submission of proposal. All these aspects should be taken care of. Then just to elaborate, we have our SPERSH scheme. They have two aspects under this. One is the SIP, Social Innovation Immersion Program, and the Affordable Product Development. So this is one more call which is there with us, and we have received more than 700 proposals and projects. 81 projects have been sanctioned. SPERSH program, SIP, if I talk about SIP, so SIP program is also conducted. We have identified certain SPERSH centers through which this program is made functional. So various immersion fellows are recruited to work on the problem, which could be of any area: maternal and child health, aging and health, food and nutrition, waste to value, combating environmental pollution, agri-tech. These centers are all across the country. Then we have PCP fund, Product Commercialization Program Fund, which gives support to the companies or the startups which have validated technologies or the product at TRL 7 and above level. Then we have we have a program BioNest, where we nurture biotech entrepreneurial ecosystem by providing startups with incubation space, high-end equipment, and technical and marketing support. So till now we have supported total 50 bioincubators, and total more than 650 incubatees have been supported through this program. This is an open program, you can apply anytime. Then we have certain equity schemes covering seed, LEAP and ACE fund. All the details of these schemes are available on our website. So please go through our website. It is a very detailed one with all the schemes. Because I have time limitations, so I'm not going through the details of these schemes. Then we have BIRAC Path scheme, which offers a wide range of IP and technology management services. All BIRAC supported innovators are eligible to apply under BIRAC Path scheme. Then we have BIRAC First Hub, Biotech First Hub. Earlier it was conducted on first Friday of each month, where all the regulatory, the representatives of all the regulatory bodies of the country used to come in a meeting, and all the any issues which are, or clarifications which are posed by the individuals or the companies used to get addressed. But during this pandemic situation, this First Hub is held each Friday. So every Friday is a First Hub day. You can apply for, you can register for First Hub session through our BIRAC website and pose your query there. And then you can be a part of this meeting too. You can get connected to the regulatory representatives. So I won't repeat the impact. I have individually and initially as well shared the impact of BIRAC. And for any queries, you can write to us for I4 and PAY scheme. You can write to investment.birac@gov.in. And I'll just open it up for any questions which we have. I hope I'm on time.
Yeah. So, Dr. Prachi, so we basically will circulate the message across, because this recording is going to be online. All the startups can access it even after the session goes live. Right now, we didn't have much questions on the startups, but it was a very informative session. Is there any other content that you want to cover? Because we are at the 6:59 mark.
Yes, I have included everything which I wanted to speak about. For rest, they can please get in touch with our office. You can always write to us for any queries or clarifications. You're almost welcome, and please go through our website for active calls.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Prachi. The session was very informative, and I'm sure it
Thank
was
you.
super helpful for all the startups and innovators who attended this session. Um, uh, Participants, coming up next, we have a session on lessons in incubation across borders and a session from Wilgrow and Andy on the business value of impact measurement. You can also meet Abbas Tadla from Acumen Academy and Sushant and Nitish from Caspian Debt in the networking lounges. Thank you to everyone who joined for this session, and see you again soon.